Hey everybody, it's Tauber999 coming at you with another movie review. So, I've had a chance to gather my thoughts, and I can confidently say that Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is terrible. So, just a heads up, this isn't an entire movie breakdown, but there will be some spoilers, so heads up for that, and let's get into it.
Spoiler alert.
All right, quick little synopsis on the movie. So, essentially, what we have here is that we start with a flashback. Years and years ago, we have a girl who was murdered. Nobody believes her. None of the parents help her. When she says, there is a creepy dude in the other room. He's taking children. They just look at her like the parents from Derry, and she dies, and it's ruled an accident. Okay? And then in the present day, everyone is now a Freddy's fan. Everyone has caught Fazbear fever, and now it's hyper relevant. Our main girl is sad that she has no friends, even though she does have friends on the bus. Everyone kind of listens to her stories. They're just captivated by it. So she goes out. She's in robotics, and she loves robotics, but for some reason she's never thought of trying to fix her animatronic friends. Which is like, okay. Against the wishes of Mike, she goes and she looks for her friends who are conspicuously absent in this movie, and she tries to fix them, where she finds evil animatronic at the first location, and this animatronic, the puppet, she manipulates her. She's the ghost of the girl that was murdered in the first one, and she gets the animatronics to be released so they can wreak havoc on the town and attack parents. And really, the only person who gets killed is the science teacher and a group of paranormal investigators. At the end of the movie, we see her friends, or Abby's friends, the old animatronics from the first one, coming back in an Avengers style scene and saving the day and kicking butt, and then it's over. And I want to say that like I was cutting out stuff, but that's pretty much it. The story is barely there. Woof, does it struggle. Oh, but it's a movie made for fans, not for critics. That's something I've been hearing a lot on the internet today. Nuance is dead, my friends. I consider myself to be both a critic and a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's. As shocking as it sounds, two things can indeed be true at once. Who would have thought? And it's always been my opinion with movies and stories. If you need supplementary material for any given movie, story, book, or whatever to make sense, it is not a good movie. I'm looking at you, Star Wars. A movie can be a sequel, it can be a prequel, it can be part of a larger narrative, but each individual movie is a chapter in any given story, right? If it doesn't have a complete narrative through line, it doesn't have setups, it doesn't have payoffs, it is a bad movie. Whether or not you like the franchise or the childhood nostalgia on the screen doesn't change the fact that if a movie doesn't make sense without additional information, it has failed. It is not a good movie. It's not complete. Those saying that Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is a good movie are simply nostalgic of their days watching Markiplier after school, and I would know because I'm one of those people. I've been watching him for 10 years, but this movie at its core is broken. There are so many things that I could point out. Just take, for example, the opening scene. You see parents that are cartoonishly ignoring this girl's cries for help. She sees William Afton knocking out this child to bring him to the back of the room, and he's not dead. He just decides to do some dishes. He's 20 feet away from this party, and he's kidnapped a child, and he's just whistling along doing some dishes. The girl gets him and escapes, and the entire thing is ruled an accident, although it's very apparent. She's wearing a white shirt. She's stabbed 3 times. He collapses in front of everyone. She previously cried for help, and the kid is now conscious, and he's somehow scared of her, as if he's totally forgotten the fact that he was just assaulted by this giant rabbit. So that was the first 3 minutes of this movie, and I just knew we were in for trouble. But beyond that, I think there's a larger issue, and I think that it can all be boiled down to a single problem. Five Nights at Freddy's doesn't know what kind of world it wants to build. And I know what you're thinking. Really? The world about a haunted Chuck E. Cheese doesn't make any sense. Who would have thought? It's a kid's movie, right? That's the same thing they said for Star Wars. That's fine, but if you're going to use that argument, if you're not allowed to critique, you're not allowed to praise. All right? The thing about fictional worlds, what takes people out of them is not absurdity, it's inconsistency. So in our first movie, we have Mike, Josh Hutcherson. He has no knowledge of any of the events that transpired. It's an obscure, rundown restaurant that is more or less forgotten by time. We get all this through exposition through Vanessa, which is that's an issue I had with the first movie, but I digress. At the end of the first one, we, the audience, learn about the murders and see the subsequent destruction of the restaurant when it collapses in on itself. At the beginning of the sequel, it is a local legend that everybody knows about now. What? How is that even possible? You expect me to believe that the entire town, the whole legend was formed by this girl sharing stories on the bus? That makes no sense whatsoever. When I was in school, I knew a girl who claimed to be able to control the weather, and she claimed to be a witch that can talk to animals. If she were in this movie, she would be viewed as weird at first, but she would also start up a whole street festival and inspire cultural relevance in a long dead restaurant franchise, and it just makes no sense. It's so ridiculous and out of character. It's almost meta. Everybody is fascinating with these stories after only a year. Everybody knows about them, and they've spawned an entire generation of furries. This legend gets famous enough that we get a team of ghost hunters to do a television segment on the franchise in the original location, which for some reason the town has completely forgotten about, even though it is 10 minutes away by bicycle. Like, are we kidding? Seriously? Simultaneously, everyone knows about everything, but there was no investigation, no crime scenes. There were never even a body recovery. I mean, we see at the end, William Afton is still in the suit, so how could any of this be possible? Nobody files a missing person report on William Afton, even though he's dead. I mean, he had a full time job. He's the one who got Mike this job. And he had some level of local fame. We see him in the newspaper. So nobody noticed that he's just gone one day, as well as the restaurant falling in. And now all of a sudden, everyone is aware of all the sketchy stuff that goes down. No reporter reached out to him for comment or anything. It's absurd. So obviously, none of the events that happened in the first one are public. Otherwise, the story wouldn't be able to happen, which is frustrating to say the least. There's a throwaway line at the beginning referencing the aunt from the first one who was trying to get custody, and they kind of chalk it up to the fact that it was all a hoax created by her. But they never mention the fact that she was murdered, and it's never brought up again. So I guess case closed. I mean, the bodies are stacking up, and no one cares. I mean, everyone cares. They care enough to throw a street festival, but they don't care enough to call the police or investigate. And she was murdered. I think that kind of lends a little bit of credibility to the hoax. At the very least, it should shine some light on the whole situation. But again, I digress. Everybody forgot about the first location, and that is just absurd to me, especially with everything going on. And it was convenient for the plot. Everyone's aware of the town's dark secret now, but nobody remembers the original location, which had a log ride and this freaky marionette puppet thing. And the original owner's son still runs it, but he's never really brought up until the reveal at the end. Without knowing any context, Mike's friend just clotheslines this guy. He sees him, he just attacks him, and he goes, you jackass or something. And then he goes inside and he's like, wow, there was stuff going on. So for some reason, he just attacked this random dude on the street. And it's just, it doesn't make any sense. None of the characters make any sense. But it's made for the fans. Guys, we need to demand better. The writing is the cheapest part of any movie, and for some reason, nobody can do it. Nobody wants to take the time. Fan service and good writing are two things that can and should exist at the same time. We need to respect our audience. We need to respect the things. If you're going to be playing around with someone else's toys in someone else's sandbox, treat them with respect. But that doesn't mean that you can just smack the toys together and expect to impress everybody. Beyond the narrative, the world inconsistencies, there are other problems. Characters make no sense. Vanessa's there, and her dad is haunting her, which I always find kind of hilarious. As if that's really an option. Like, oh, should I live a normal life, or should I just start killing people like my dad? That's a really tough call. And I understand the family trauma aspect of it, but it is so superficial. Mike gets mad at her at one point for not telling him about other murder victims. Does he just think Vanessa was right there hanging out while her dad was killing everybody? She knew it to some degree, but really? You're getting mad at her for not sharing her dad's body count? Like it's weird. And beyond that, Mike is just kind of sidelined this whole movie. It's really about his is it sister, daughter? I think it's the sister, cousin, the girl who acts 5, who looks 12. It's all about her, and that's fine, as one would expect. But he is just sidelined, and the only reason he exists is to be shoehorned into a scene that is similar to the gameplay of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Which, I mean, that's great. That's a cool little Easter egg, but it'd make a lot more sense if it was just some random. The acting is stiff. It's full of contrivances. Newman from Seinfeld is a science teacher that treats it like a football team, and it's okay to be in robotics, but robotics isn't for everybody. It's just absurd. The fact that he is so offended by these robots that oh, we don't want to dirty our school's reputation. Like, really? Like, robotics is popular enough and everyone is clamoring to get in that you've got to like you got to hold the doors closed so the weirdos don't come in and ruin robotics. Really? And it, the world itself doesn't make any sense. And I wrote out this whole script for it, and the more I think about it, just the more absurd it is. And we can have fantastical worlds, and we can have these deep stories that take place in in worlds that are not ours, right? This is very clearly not a world like ours, but it doesn't follow its own rules, and that is poopy. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. I love to have these kind of discussions. I would love to hear alternative points of view. But yeah, thanks so much. Bye.